exactly how CHP has been communicating with him, but it's assumed it's likely through one of those radios. Back and forth, the suspect telling them that he does not have any weapons. Exactly what he's wanted for, as far as maybe past arrests or if there's any warrant out for his arrest currently, that is not known as we try to get more information from the CHP in this pursuit. But it's been going for quite a long time, flying through traffic all the way from the Barstow region down the 150, down the 15, I should say, across the 10, now on the eastbound 60.
And we are now in Riverside, that we are told. We were in Rubino. He is now in Riverside and going along on that freeway. And it's just, you can imagine what he's thinking right now, because he's told them he doesn't want to go back to jail, but he must realize, given the fact that he is in a semi-truck, it's pretty difficult to get away in any car, but in a semi-truck, yes, you will be going back to jail, because they will likely, more than likely, catch you. Hopefully, no one will be injured or get hurt or won't have any traffic accidents in this pursuit.
Well, that's the thing, is you're looking at a semi-truck in a high-speed chase. How often do we see this? And the dangers that come with this, not known exactly what this guy's experience is driving a truck, but obviously he was able to steal it according to the CHP, and he's been able to maneuver it so far on the highway. But with speeds reaching 70 miles per hour and the cars on that freeway, we're not in rush hour obviously right now. This is kind of the time when luckily there aren't too many people on the road. But as we zoom out from Air 7 HD overhead, you can see, I saw 4 CHP officers following earlier. It appears there are 4 there. And they typically monitor the situation, sometimes try to set out spike strips, but we're on a busy freeway right now, so that's probably not going to happen, and it's unknown exactly how much fuel this guy has in the tank since he's only been driving, we're told, for about an hour and 15 minutes so far since this was reported, Leslie.
Now on the 215 freeway, so he went from the 60 in Rubidoux to Riverside, the 215 freeway coming up on yet another semi, passing that semi by, and it can be difficult to keep control of these semi-trucks, as we have seen, and hopefully this person just does have control of that truck and there will not be any accidents. But as you mentioned, at least 4 CHP cars following him, behind him, in pursuit, but giving him some room so as not to crowd him. Not too many cars on the road, but the cars that we do see, he is passing quite easily.
Again, if you're just now joining, this all started around 10:30 this morning in San Bernardino, North New York, towards the Barstow Sheriff Station. That's who originally responded to this call. We've been watching just one driver. It appears to be inside, a man with a short-sleeved white T-shirt, as we zoom in again. And what's just bizarre is, one, this is a semi-truck that's involved in a high-speed chase, speeds reaching 70 miles per hour. 2, he's been able to communicate with CHP, and we are just assuming right now that it's likely over the radio that is often found inside these vehicles, saying, 1, I don't want to go back to jail, according to our sources, which means he has some sort of criminal past, and 2, he's told officers, I don't have any weapons inside. So at least from their standpoint, they've been backing off a little bit. Right now, go ahead.
Do we have somebody on the phone with us, Steph? Now on the 215? Somebody? No, we don't. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I saw a note to that effect. Maybe we will get someone to talk to, but as you can see, some of those cars pulling over to the side and allowing this suspect to just continue and this search to continue. We haven't seen any spike strips or any efforts to actually stop the truck, so they are letting it play out right now. And you can see those black and whites behind him and giving him ample room and trying not to crowd him, and not very many cars on the road at this point. That is, of course, the good news. He is still on the 215 freeway, rather, in Riverside, and came from the 60 freeway, passing up another truck, another semi-truck that looks identical, but passing with quite some speed attached.
And right now we want to go live to Bruce Thomas. He's a law enforcement expert joining us on the phone. Sir, you've got 27 years background in law enforcement, and you know, you've been in pursuits before. This is quite unique. How do you handle a situation like this where you have a semi? This is just dangerous on the freeway.
You know, the nice thing is, apparently this guy had some skills driving a semi, but in all my years, I don't remember either being involved with or having a semi-truck pursuit. trying to stop this thing is really not going to happen. The driver's going to have to safely pull over and surrender, and CHP will just have to wait this out.
So there is really no putting a spike strip up and trying to stop this semi. That wouldn't be wise.
You can put a spike strip down. However, the tires are so heavy duty, and you're looking at least 8 tires on the trailer and possibly that many on the cab. So the spike strip pretty much would be ineffective.
And Bruce, watching this happen, it appears he might be slowing down a little bit. There's very few vehicles on the road right now on the 215 South in Riverside. This guy says that he doesn't want to go back to jail. We've seen him go up to 70 miles per hour. In your experience, if you're driving along the freeway, we see truck drivers all the time going 70. So that's not a hugely dangerous speed. They're only supposed to go 55. But how dangerous is this that it is a semi, and you can also never, count on erratic driving with somebody in a pursuit chase?
Yeah, you're dealing with a vehicle that weighs thousands and thousands of pounds. And for it to get at a very high rate of speed, it becomes a missile almost. But this driver does seem to be slowing down. Maybe his communication with CHP has paid off, and he's going to pull over safely and not endanger anybody else's life, including his own.
Can you take us into perhaps his mindset? This is a person who has said that he doesn't have weapons, has been in contact with authorities and said that he does not want to go back to jail. So at this point, he can see there's the choppers above him and CHP on his tail. What is he thinking right now?
That's the thing. The drivers in these pursuits, they're really not thinking. They believe they're going to get away. And 99.9% of the time, they do not. With the helicopters, the radios, the ability to radio on ahead and have other units waiting for him, he's going to go back to jail. The question is, how long is he going to inconvenience the public and endanger everybody's safety?
And Bruce, you've managed pursuits, in your past with law enforcement. Like you said, the CHP is obviously holding back, but how long can they do that if he starts to pick up speeds again? I mean, this is, like you said, a missile practically at high rates of speed. Where is the balance in staying back and then trying to push this guy and force him to pull over?
Well, when you're dealing with a semi-truck especially, you really don't want to crowd this guy. You don't want to force him into taking some dangerous maneuvers and endangering the general public, not to mention the law enforcement officers and himself. So you give him a little bit of room, but you let him know that you are back there.
But do you put other officers, I guess you're going down the 215 now, so I mean, how many officers are you calling in to maybe take on some exits, and put in different areas ahead of this guy?
Can you take us?
Yeah, the nice thing is you have the helicopter, which is probably calling the pursuit, meaning they are talking to the units and saying he's, westbound on the 215 at such a speed. They'll have multiple units there, one to control the traffic when he finally does stop, and other units to effectively make the arrest. With CHP, they have the ability to do handoffs. So when their units start to get tired or they run low on gas, they'll hand it off to another unit. That's the beauty of a pursuit. You have an agency like this that can do that.
So there's pretty much no way to manage the cars that are in front of him that he might run into, but they can sort of manage the cars that are behind him by keeping the space with the CHP.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously have their lights and siren on, and you're not going to see, you're not going to hear the siren, but you are going to see the lights, and that's why they have multiple red and blue and amber lights on the car to warn oncoming traffic. But in this case, it's just kind of a wait-and-see attitude.
And Bruce, I guess we're just assuming right now that the way they've been able to communicate with him is through a radio. Most of these semi-trucks are fixed with radios that CHP might be able to communicate with, possibly?
Yeah, possibly. He might be talking to CHP dispatch. He might be on a cellular phone talking to them. But at this point, I know they were in communication. What they're saying is probably he doesn't want to go back to jail and he does want to end this, but he wants to make some sort of deal.
Bruce, and as you see this, just what's your gut feeling when you first saw this?
Pretty amazing that a semi-truck would be chased by CHP like this because it's just something you really can't anticipate ever.
And this is you think he says he thinks that these guys think that they're going to get away, and it's kind of hard to imagine you're driving a giant white semi-truck. How do you think you're not going to be spotted from overhead? Bruce, stand by for 1 second just because we want to update our viewers. If you're watching this right now, just tuning in here to ABC7, this is a police pursuit, CHP, pursuing the stolen semi-truck in Riverside. This all started at 10:30 this morning. It came into the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office in the Barstow Station, southbound on 15, has gone through several freeways, and now we are in Riverside, Leslie.
And we're going to bring in Eyewitness News reporter Rob McMillan. He is on the phone with us. Rob, what can you tell us?
Well, we are on the 60 freeway heading eastbound through Moreno Valley, probably about a mile or two off in the distance. We can see some flashing lights from the authorities following the pursuit suspect. Traffic is relatively light here in the area in Moreno Valley, and one thing that my photographer, Dave Bussey, who's driving our truck right now, and I were talking about is that he is approaching an area known to a lot of the folks around here in the Inland Empire as the Badlands, where the 60 freeway goes down to 2 lanes in each direction, but it's very tight and very windy, and not a part of the freeway where it's going to be easy for someone driving a big rig to maneuver. It's one of the stretches of road out to Palm Springs. You'll either drive along the 10 or along the 60 through the Badlands. And a lot of people who I've talked to in the past, including some of our former photographers, did not like driving this stretch of road because it was so windy and so narrow. So it's definitely an area where drivers have to use extreme caution.
And Rob, based on what you've seen, about how far away is this suspect in this stolen truck away from the Badlands area where it gets down to 2 lanes?
Probably another 3 miles. We're passing Harris Boulevard right now, and I believe the next exit is Main Street, and that's pretty close to where the suspect is. He probably has another 2 or 3 miles until he gets to the Badlands. The authorities right at the pursuit suspect. I forget the name of that turnoff. Thanks, Dave. Gilman Springs Road, right past that, we're going to the Badlands. And that's at a point where I'll probably lose cell phone reception, too.
Now the Badlands are named that not just because of the freeway in that area. Is it because of the neighborhood?
No, there aren't really any neighborhoods through there. It's all just, windy, hilly, dead grass-like terrain. It lasts for about 5 to 6 miles until you come out the other end into Beaumont, and then you have another 2 or 3 miles, an area that I don't think is really even considered a freeway at that point, because you have at least one intersection there where it's real tough for people trying to get onto that highway. You have to wait sometimes for 2 or 3 minutes till you get it open on there, and then another mile hooked up to the 10 freeway heading through Beaumont and Banning off toward Cabazon. So again, we're about a mile behind.
So it's definitely going to take some skilled driving on his part, and he's going to have to slow his speeds when he gets to that area, is what you're saying.
That's correct. I don't remember if there's a speed limit that drops down to 55 in that area, but it is an area that's very windy, lots of elevation climbs and then drops, and you got to watch it on the brakes. And it's another one where a lot of the trucks have trouble.
Joining us on the phone right now, following this police pursuit in the Inland Empire. Do we still have Bruce? Are you still with us as well, Bruce?
Yes, I am. Hey, just some additional information. The truck is a hazardous material chemical transport truck. And on the side, he's got some hazmat decals. So I know this particular company does even transport radioactive waste in addition to electronic waste. So they're really not going to do anything to cause this vehicle to really endanger the public.
Yeah, how does this factor in to the chase itself? And why would someone be stealing a truck like this?
You know, that's a very interesting question. That's $1 million question, so to speak. If he's a driver who maybe got terminated and took the truck, but the driver definitely has the ability to drive an 18-wheel truck, as we've seen.
And Bruce, I guess that's a big concern. As you just heard, our reporter Rob McMillan, who works in the Inland Empire for us here at ABC7, said that he's reaching this area where it's going to get down to 2 lanes at any moment, and then there's going to be swerves and climbs and dips in the road. I mean, now we've learned from you he's driving a truck that could be carrying hazardous materials. What do you do at this point? Just hope and pray that he is safe with his vehicle and the CHP backs off?
Exactly. You hope that he's going to be in the right frame of mind, that he's going to maintain his speed, not do anything dangerous, and CHP will just follow like they're doing now at a safe distance, at a consistent speed, and be in touch with the local agencies to say, hey, if this guy gets off the freeway, we need to follow this truck and we really need to maintain our visual.
I'm sorry, we lost that signal. We're going to try to get it again. Bruce, stay with us. But this is when CHP, this is where the negotiation tactics really come into play. When they understand that someone has a hazardous material in their truck, and this person is on the loose, and they do have communication with him. At least they have a few times during this pursuit. So they are really going to have to talk him down, so to speak, to try to get this to end.
What we've also learned from investigators, Bruce, is that he has told us that he doesn't want to go back to jail. He doesn't have any weapons with him, so it sounds like they may be closer to learning what his past is, who this guy is, and potentially how they've been able to communicate with him via the radio.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, when you do have an active pursuit like this, they did pass some legislation years ago. There is a mandatory jail time. So if he is going to go back to jail, the question is, how long is he going to endanger and inconvenience the general public?
Yes, and that will certainly add on charges if anything happens here and people get hurt. And so here we see him in Moreno Valley as this began a few hours ago, 10:30 actually, and coming up on 2 hours here. This suspect, as we can see, one person in the cab of that semi-truck, lone male there. Stolen vehicle, they believe, failure to yield, saying that he has no weapons and that he does not want to head back to jail. CHP in pursuit of the semi-truck.
We have Rob McMillan standing by on the phone. Rob, we've gotten down to 2 lanes now here on the 60 and this as in Moreno Valley. Is this the area you were concerned about mostly now that you're following this truck and the CHP?
That's correct. I can't tell if he's already past Gilman Springs Road or not. He's very close. As soon as he passed Gilman Springs Road, we're going into the Badlands. We are now past Gilman Springs Road, and I see the helicopters continuing in an eastbound direction, so I can only assume he has continued into the Badlands. Stand by.
Yes, we do have information that he did pass Gilman Springs.
Dave Bussey agrees. It looks like we're heading east. Just so you know, we're going to be still in another minute or two. So I'll try to stay with you all I can. But traffic definitely right through here. I can see a speed limit sign as we are entering the Badlands right now. The speed limit is 65. And it's starting to get rather windy through here. Again, the helicopters look like they're still about a mile ahead, and we've seen a number of law enforcement units with lights and sirens on in that same direction. And from the helicopters, it looks like this thing might be slowing down a little bit, and one would expect that coming through the Badlands.
And it is certainly slowing down in the opposite direction, that we can see more and more cars coming in the opposite direction. But on his side, we have only just seen that semi-truck, and the road, as you mentioned, is narrowing and it is starting to wind. So we're certainly eager to see what will happen here. Hopefully he will simply give up and pull over, but this could get bad.
And we have Bruce Thomas, also a law enforcement expert. Bruce, we've been talking to you for the last half hour. For anybody just now joining us, just your expertise. You've been involved in these pursuits throughout your career, and the way you put it earlier, that this is thousands of pounds of a semi that could technically be used like a missile, it just gives me chills thinking, you know, the potential of him carrying hazardous materials. You know, what were you able to learn from just reading the sides of the truck?
Yeah, basically the company does transport hazardous materials, electronic waste, and sometimes radioactive waste. So, and with everything being said, you've got to take that into account where you don't want to force him to go at a very high rate of speed, lose control, and then cause a hazmat type of incident.
Is there a way to look at this semi, the way it's driving, and to figure out if it is empty or not? Coming in the opposite direction.
The only way to know that is to contact the company and find out what the trailer was hauling. But it looks like it was intact with the trailer and the cab. So it may be a full laden vehicle or it may be an empty vehicle. But the way it looks like it's driving, it looks like it does have some cargo.
The slower CHP pulling over right now.
Oh,
He's pulling
stopping.
over and stopping. As far as if you take us through the minds of these officers right now, if you can, Bruce, what do you do in this situation now that the truck pulled over and now appears to be getting back on the road?
The officers are talking to someone that's controlling the pursuit, in this case the helicopter or a supervisor, who's telling them, maintain your speed, maintain your distance, and if he feels that any officer is getting amped up to any degree, he'll pull that officer out and replace him with a fresh officer, and that's what CHP will do in their pursuits because they have the resources to do that.
He might be downshifting right now because we're told also, Bruce, that he's going uphill. This is an uphill climb through that area of the Badlands of Beaumont that Rob McMillan was telling us about. So maybe he wasn't pulling over. Maybe he was just trying to shift the gears and get this truck moving to go uphill. As far as, the radio contact that they're able to make with him, if you're just now joining us, the driver behind the wheel has told the CHP that, quote, he doesn't want to go back to jail and that he also does not have any weapons with him. But Bruce, what I'm trying to figure out is, okay, we see car chases throughout LA all the time. Why steal a semi-truck of all things? Can you even wrap your head around that?
That's a very good question. It sounds to me, or it appears, that maybe he was an employee of the company, may have been terminated, disciplined, and this is his way of getting back at them. That's all guesswork, but,
Because you haven't heard of people stealing semi-trucks before just to have a semi-truck and sell it or take the parts off or anything like that.
Yeah, and if you're going to sell it, if you're going to steal a semi-truck and sell it, you're not going to be driving like he is. You're going to be taking it to a very short distance, get rid of it. There was a pursuit years and years ago in San Diego with a tank, and it was someone who was very disgruntled.
And it looks like he's on the telephone, as we can see, peering through the driver's side window. He's got his hand to his face. It looks like he's holding a telephone and may be on the phone, hopefully, so he's driving with the right hand, kind of looking behind him. Looks like he may be in negotiations or in a conversation, hopefully with authorities.
And we are getting some more information, just so you're aware, Bruce, about the company behind this truck. We're told the company is called Act Enviro, and the company tells ABC7 that it's unaware of this pursuit. As you were correct, Bruce, in telling us that they do transport hazardous materials, and according to the website, it says Act's commitment to sustainability and the environment stems from a focus on protecting people, promoting health, and safeguarding the planet's natural spaces. They do chemical waste disposal, as you said, radioactive material disposal, biomedical disposal, a bunch of different services, including environmental contracting. The list goes on and on. They do digital waste management, and so now we're watching this truck that was taken from San Bernardino County around 10:30 this morning. It was taken stolen through the Cajon Pass. CHP contacting and communicating with the Sheriff's Department and the Barstow Station. They've been following this guy for almost 2 hours now, communicating with him somehow, as he's gone down the 15, now onto the 60, and now in the middle of nowhere, really, in Beaumont, where it's just a dangerous road to be driving with potentially hazardous materials.
And he shows really no signs of letting up. We did just about 5 minutes ago think that he was pulling over to the side to possibly stop, but it turns out that wasn't the case, because we are told that in this area of the Badlands it is uphill, so he he was, as you know, as Bruce told us, he does have experience. It looks like driving a semi truck, so he was probably trying to shift and get it into gear to get up this hill. So they are at a grade there, and he is making his way. Not clear how fast he is going, but he is making his way through this pass in these in narrow lanes that you have here, and not